Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Portland Film Festival. This is presented for the fourth consecutive year by Comcast. We just want to thank our Comcast team for their tremendous support that ensures that diverse voices are given a platform to share across the world. We also want to thank Portland Mortgage, Kerner Camera, and Oregon Film. If you'd like more information or if you'd like to purchase tickets to any of our movies, please head over to pdxff.com. I'm Candace McDowell with the Portland Film Festival, and today I have some of the crew from the film This Is Not a War Story. We have director and lead actress Talia Lugacy, and we have producer Noah Lang. Welcome.
Thanks
for having us.
So we would love to hear where this story came from. Can you give us some background?
Sure. I was working on a script about trauma and about suicidal ideation. And I discovered the veteran statistic of suicide. The 22 veterans a day were killing themselves. I discovered this as a fact when I was researching my own script. And so I started pulling on the threads of that and discovered the narrative that became This Is Not a War Story, but I found it in collaboration with the veterans that I got to know, that I reached out to. So, you know, combat veterans who served in Iraq, Afghanistan, Vietnam, and elsewhere came on board the film, and we collaborated and found the story together. I'm a civilian and not a veteran, and one of the primary intents was to kind of create a bridge between the civilian and the veteran experience where it comes to trauma, and try to transcend the whatever separations that people believe may exist there.
So did you have veteran consultants on set or in the script writing process?
All throughout, Candace, and they appear in the film as well. So basically, they were involved in the, in all of the lead up to developing the material. The whole papermaking process that appears in the film is them. That's all real process that they do, that I was utterly inspired by and captivated by and knew had to be in the film. And so it's a hybrid film in the sense that it is a fictional construct, but it involves real people portraying themselves in their own artistic processes. And so we collaborated, from the beginning all the way through the end. Almost everybody you see, other than the few main characters that are there, everybody in the supporting cast is a veteran. Yep.
Wow. How did you form as a team? You and Noah, how did you find each other and your other producers?
Noah, that's for you.
Yeah, I mean, her and I connected very early on when it was called 8,000 Shots. And we met up at a coffee shop, and she had this incredibly ambitious plan, and I just kind of sensed that she was pretty driven about figuring out how to do it. And even though it was at this very modest scale cost wise, and it sort of felt this kind of like an obligation to be a part of it. And since then it's been a super rewarding ride, very, very intense and crazy one, with a lot of very high highs and low lows. But we everybody bonded a lot over this film because it's quite special, and there isn't really anything like it. And but as far as Julian and Talia go, they go back, 15 years or so, right? I mean, a long time. And we all sort of complement each other in different ways. I think my kind of sense early on was to sort of honestly, like, get out of Talia's way. She, and I don't mean that in a like, I just think there's no room for ego in something like this. So it was to try and allow her to have the space to do what she knew she needed to do, and Julian as well, but also brought up so much value in post-production. He's a wizard in that sphere. So there was sort of whenever one person I felt like had a certain level of weakness in an area, there was someone else who could sort of step in and help fill that void. And I think all throughout, everyone is a producer on this movie in a way. Every person who worked on it, like everyone is part and parcel.
So Talia, how did you feel, since you're the one who did the primary research, how did you feel that it came together when you were there in production? Did it seem like that went smoothly? Was there any surprises? Do you feel like you got your mission across as far as your vision for the film?
Yeah, if anything, it exceeded, I mean, I had, as Noah describes, very, very high ambitions, and the scope of what we were trying to do is pretty complicated, um, for so many reasons, but primarily because of this hybrid form and for being a low budget that we are. But yeah, given all of those parameters, I feel like we definitely went beyond what I was expecting and hoping for. I mean, we achieved so many of the things that we were trying to do, with improvisation standing alongside scripted dialogue, and with non-actors working with actors, and all of these kinds of things that typically are just such a challenge, even when you have resources. We're absolutely thrilled with the finished product, and I think that the response it's getting is a testament to how well it sort of has realized itself.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm curious about, I wanted to ask about your change in location, how you took a big part of the movie and you went out to that house. Can you tell us a little bit about where that idea came from, that big change of location and the intimacy between those two characters?
Certainly, yeah, that was very much a part of the very, very beginning conceptions of what the movie was going to be. I knew that in order to really dig deep into this, how do you cope with trauma, how do you live with it, there had to be a dimension of the city, which is utterly fragmented and dissociative and intense and loud, and alienating, and then a second half of the movie that is in nature, that is quieter, that is by definition more intimate, and would allow us to go even deeper. So to have all the trauma threads kind of come together in a sort of chaotic synergy in the beginning, and then have it lead to a deeper place of contemplation, and that was always built into the film. So I'm glad that resonated with you, because it was definitely intentional, and I like the fact also that it's doing something in a sense that movies very rarely do, which is that it kind of is taking a turn that you don't expect, and allowing the film to take place somewhere else for the second half of the movie. I mean, I like when films do that kind of thing, and I was certainly intentionally doing that here.
My favorite part of the film is when your character shows up there. Just that awkward tension, because as the audience, you're not sure why she's there either. It creates that tension. And I was curious if the tension between those two lead characters, is that part of the creative storyline, or was any of that, were you trying to illustrate what testimonies that people had actually told you, stories of how their relationships are affected since coming home?
That's interesting. Yeah, I guess the second half is more close to things that I just have directly experienced in my own life with trauma. I mean, I just, but it overlaps everything that we had talked about with veterans and research, because these are the fundamental similarities, right? The fact that you really can't communicate, the fact that you want connection, but you also can't handle it and deal with it, and you're trying to navigate it as best you can, but you have your guard up, and all of these things that get played out in that second half, are represented in between these two fictional characters. But yeah, they completely overlap, and in a sense I think they sort of define the bridge between the civilian and the veteran experiences of just day to day, just trying to live with this in some way, and find it, and it's through all those moments of being inarticulate, and all those pauses, and all the silence, and all the tension of just physical proximity. All of those things are real aspects of living with trauma.
Can you tell us a little bit, either one of you, how it was working with so many consultants on set? Because that's very different from traditional filmmaking, where you're following the script, you have the directors and the writers, they're controlling it all. When you're involving so many people, can you just tell us about that experience and how that went?
Yeah, sure. I mean, it's I wouldn't call them consultants really, because it's almost too formal. I mean, the crew was very small on purpose. We were trying to build a family really to make this film, and we did. The shooting was spread out over many months. It was not your typical crunch time, shoot an independent film for 16 days for 20 hours a day. It wasn't like that. We had as much time as we could possibly get to shoot it, and we did it over a period of time where the crew and the veterans got to know each other. We had time to hang out, to do test shoots, to do all those kinds of things, to the point where, it became a very organic process. And the improvisation was also kept very structured in the sense that it was still inside of a story. So in the script, there were points where it was like, okay, this section here is going to be improvised, but all the stuff around it is, so everything was, in that sense, there was a container enough that it wasn't just, it wasn't too loose. We knew what we were showing up to do each day. But the short answer is really just that it wasn't so much a process of consulting as it was a process of collaborating, whereby we really were just creating space for the veterans to have a platform to speak, to share the artwork, the poetry, all of those things, and the anecdotes and things like that, all of which were built in on purpose based on things that I had already heard them, say and express.
Mm-hmm.
And still to this day, like we most recently played Urban World, and we were fortunate to put on, an art, like a gallery presentation in conjunction with the festival. So it's very much an ongoing thing.
So you did a live gallery? Mm-hmm. I mean, I saw the one in the film, but you're talking about that was actually a real gallery that people could come and experience?
Yeah, that was sponsored by our distributor, Warner Media Project 150 through the Urban World Film Festival. It was a full day where people could come and interact with the veterans in the film and make art with with the paper and cut the uniforms and do all those kinds of things. Yeah.
I love this because your film is so versatile. So it has this kind of experiential, right? So you have actually live galleries happening, and it has a documentary feel, even though it has a creative storyline. So it just has all these layers of depth to it, which is fun to see. I mean, you can experience it while you're watching it, but just hearing the background more of how you related, what you made it, you touched real people's lives in the experience. You formed a family. So that's really interesting and really different compared to traditional filmmaking, right?
Yeah, that was part of the intent. Yeah, I mean, that we were setting out to make the film, and also I don't think it couldn't have been made any other way. That's the thing. Is that like I sort of knew that at a certain point, like it had to be made this way, and it also couldn't be made any other way, in my way of looking at it. So that was the adventure that we were signing up to go on, and that's how we did it. And I think the fact that we did it successfully is a testament to the fact that like these kinds of collaborations can work. These kinds of bridges can actually be built. It's interesting to look at the film itself as an example of how the civilian and the veteran community can actually have so much overlap, and how fruitful that can be.
Yeah, and there's a lot of like, cynical voyeuristic elements to filmmaking sometimes, where people just say, well, that's interesting, I'm going to go basically exploit it, and there was an element of that was never going to be able to, it's not in Talia or any of our character, but also it just wouldn't, they would smell that bullshit a mile away. It wouldn't work, so you can't just roll in and, poach someone's culture and experience and then just bail. Like they're all connected for life, it's not it's an ongoing thing, much like the themes of the movie.
Have you had any of your veteran actors involved in Q&As? Have they been able to attend any of them?
Yeah, sure. Most of them. Yeah.
Okay.
I think it was really just for us today that just the timing of setting it up. But yeah, they've been very involved. It's been great to be able to hear them reflect on the experience and give insights there.
And did you know from the beginning you wanted to make a film from your research, or were you initially just researching?
Oh, I'm always making a film.
Filmmaker at heart.
No, it was always a film.
Wow. Okay. Do either one of you have advice for filmmakers? We have a lot of filmmakers who will be watching these Q&As. They're first-time filmmakers, some more experienced. Do you have any advice from your experience, particularly the way that you decided you chose to do this film?
Noah's full of excellent advice on filmmaking.
I just read something not long ago that I have a 1-year-old, and I can't wait till he's old enough to understand. But I wish someone had told me, it's anything worth doing is worth being, sucking at and being bad at. So it's okay to be bad at something it takes a long time to be good at something. So, don't be afraid to go be terrible at filmmaking for a long time. Eventually you'll get better.
It's
And
not
I mean, I don't want to say like platitudes, like, don't let anyone tell you not to, don't wait for anyone's permission. It's like a lot of times you're held back from that stuff. So I would say just, don't be afraid to be bad at it.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, because it can be very inhibiting at times, especially with film. When you make a mistake, it's always on such a big scale.
And you're putting yourself out there. Like I get it. It's it's your thing, and it's scary, but it's also really fun. And that's try and find the moments of fun and levity in doing something that's very stressful and anxiety inducing.
Definitely. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. For my part, I guess I would vouch for the idea that you are, just to as much as possible, I would encourage people to do the things that genuinely interest them to do. If you're gonna go through what it takes to make a film, it better not be for somebody else's idea of what's a good movie, or to satisfy some bizarre, pseudo objective standard of what makes a good movie. I mean, you have to do what your heart is screaming at you to do. Anything short of that is a silly undertaking, I think, and it won't get you through it. It's far too much work.
Yeah, might as well just sell real estate if that's the case. Like I always say that, like there's so much like cynicism in entertainment where it's like, how do we just make money on something? It's like, well, you can make money a lot easier doing other things. So, go do that other thing if that's what you care about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of mentioned that you've had a positive response to this film. Is that in the film festival circuit that have you submitted to multiple film festivals and then received a lot of positive audience response, or where are you taking your film? Yeah.
Well, we won the audience award at a couple of film festivals at San Francisco Indie Fest and Woods Hole and Indie Street, and then we won Best Feature Narrative at Atlanta Underground, and we just won through Urban World and the New York Women in Film and Television. We won Best Director. So, and it's been a lot of like very, very positive, audience feedback and critical feedback and stuff. It's very encouraging,
Yeah, I mean, the critical feedback's been, I think we knew we had a great movie, but it's been universal. So we're thrilled. Yeah.
Well, a little bit about you both. How long have you been in the filmmaking industry, and is this what you've always wanted to do?
Sadly, yes. I committed to this at the age of 12, so it's been a while for me. I've got bit by the bug pretty early on, and I've thought of and done nothing else. I mean, I have, but primarily that's just been my jam from a very young age. I was watching Kubrick movies on repeat and just thinking that's what I want to do with my life, and that's pretty much what I've done.
Yeah, I got no plan B. My dad's an actor, so I never had, the real job was never on the table. So this is what I do. Yeah. And I love it. But from a very young age, I didn't know I wanted to be a producer, but I knew I wanted to be in it.
Interesting. Did you discover your producer bug as you tried different roles? Did you just kind of find this is what you preferred, or is this just what you're doing for this film?
No, I mean, it's what I do. And like, I don't, and I don't have, I don't think the kind of attention to detail brain. That's not being totally fair to myself. I like to like advocate for and help like alleviate the pressure for people like Talia to be able to do their thing. And, I can only sort of like, I can intellectually understand how much pressure it is. So just trying to be an asset for dealing with that so that the thing can be as good as it can be. But yeah, I mean, I don't know when I wanted to be a music video director when I was growing up because it was such a cool era, like Smashing Pump, all the grunge era music videos and things like that. And that floor fell out. And also I just realized I didn't actually want to do that. And so I don't know, I kind of stumbled into it.
But you definitely found the right path. I mean, my God, what a God.
I appreciate that. Yeah, I hope so. I got a kid to support.
Well, we have to convince you to stay.
No, you don't have to convince me. There's no choice. Yeah.
Do you have any future projects in the works?
We're about to make another one together for damn sure.
Couldn't be more different, but it's going to be rad.
Yeah.
I have a thing that I don't know if Talia is the same, but reluctancy to talk about something because you get a certain amount of joy out of just talking about it that it can detract from actually doing it. But it's
Yeah.
really, really cool. Our partners at 150 are involved, and I think it's going to be really special. And we wait, with a little bit of gumption, hopefully we can, do it really fast. Like it's not a enormous, like, Transformers, though I'd love to see her do a Transformers movie. But I think it's gonna be quite cool. Yeah.
Yeah, agreed. I'm on the same page. I have a very deep reluctance to talk about something before it's been realized. I'm cautious about it. But.
You don't want to lose the creative energy for it.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about something too much ahead of time, you characterize it, and then your words come back to haunt you, and you're like, oh, that's how. And then it's sort of, it kind of, it affects it, and so I would rather keep it as anonymous as I can as I'm still creating it, and then it will live. It'll realize itself.
Oh, good. We have something to look forward to then when we see this project coming out. As far as this current film, what's next for it? Are you going to be in the film festival circuit? Do you have any plans for distribution? What's happening with this film? And is there anything that veterans might be doing with it, their own showings?
Yeah, sure. So both of those things are happening. So we have Warner Media Project 150 releasing our film onto the HBO Max platform. It'll be released November 3rd. And we also have 2 theatrical runs concurrent with that, one in New York City and one in Los Angeles. And then as far as, I mean, we've had private screenings with different veteran groups, all through the pandemic and all of this year. So it's been a lot of, they've been mostly virtual, but we have a few coming up in person, one in San Antonio and then a few other places. So it's just trying to kind of make the film available to them. And to continue to, broaden and deepen the conversation around the film, for sure.
Yeah, and we have our Canadian premiere in December at Whistler. We might have 1 or 2 others. We're playing in Bushwick and Brooklyn. Maybe another I'm forgetting or 2. But and then I think the cool thing about this is, down the line, there's nothing to stop it from just continuing to have group screenings with, veterans groups, or we'll make it available. We're not. Yeah. It's not like we're going to just close the chapter completely. I mean, as excited as we are to make something else, it's, it's a living and breathing thing, the tool,
Yeah.
Absolutely. That to me, that's what makes it exceptionally unique. Is this is something I don't want to see go away. I want to see it just continued and to reach different audiences. I mean, throughout the US, but also, is it international? Have you submitted to any international film festivals? Or is it primarily in the United States right now?
We've struggled with overseas, frankly. I think part of that is the specificity of the veteran experience in the States per capita. I mean, I don't totally buy that. It's just weird. We've had some weird, bless Portland for playing, and all the places that have played us, but some weird sort of pushback on our movie at times. Some surprising places didn't take the film, whereas some that were much, we're like, well, we thought we were an outlier for this one that we got into. So but we have a foreign sales partner, so I'm sure we'll get some distribution and things like that. But we would have we'll see. Hopefully there's some more invites to come and things like that. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
Was there anything else that you want to share with the audience about the film? Themes that you hope that they would catch, or awareness you hope that they would gather about your specific topic?
I mean, I think the film very much speaks for itself, and I just want to invite people to have their own experience with it, and to dive deep into it, and have the experience. I think it's everything that's in there is in there deliberately and in there with the purpose. So catch it or not, is
watch it more than once.
Certainly, that's
Please.
the good film in my book.
Yeah, I want to go watch it now again after this Q&A, even though I just watched it, because I just feel like I'm going to get so much more, especially after talking about the house scene and just you explaining the different environments. I just feel like I'll glean more from it.
Well, and it's cool too, because you didn't, since you like didn't realize in advance that a lot of these guys are in it playing sort of facsimiles of themselves. It's, I think, quite, when you recognize that, you're like, man, the construction of this thing is really cool, and there's not a ton of things like it out there. There's like, I guess The Rider did it, and I guess Nomadland to an extent, but to this extent, I don't know that anyone has spent the amount of time and research, and trust building that Talia did. So I hope that continues to connect with people. I mean, that's part of why it's so exciting. It's like making films is supposed to be about like finding unique challenges, and that's a unique challenge. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's a real life current issue happening right now, and not using people who have actually lived through it, not using, but inviting them into the process is what makes it not exploitive, as you mentioned, of people's trauma, their life experiences. And it's not just a quick wrap up of, this is how we, fix this situation, but it's contemplative. It makes you have to think, this is a real life, these are real life issues happening right now. What's our response? Supporting people who are going through this, but also just what's our American response? As you mentioned, these are American, these are our military. So yeah. I just think there's a lot to contemplate and reflect on after your film.
Thanks. Yeah, and that was, that was part of the goal, was like to be, the antithesis of other movies on this topic, other war stories, right, on this topic, where it's so easy to heal from something. It's, the veteran gets some help and then it's fine, so we're in the clear to keep sending people to war, because even if you have trauma, you can come back and heal and it's fine. All those types of very unhelpful myths, or the myth that, that the veteran is somehow a hero to be propped up, and then you don't have to give it any further thought. As long as you're celebrating them, it's fine. And it's not fine. It's like we are all participating as citizens or members of this society. We're participating in these occupations, and we bear responsibility, and we better know what that is. We're all carrying the burden, whether we're conscious of it or not.
Yeah, and just mental illness in general. It's like, that's the same problem with those narratives. It's like, as a person with type 2 bipolar, like, it's pretty frustrating seeing stories where meet a quirky psychiatrist and everything kind of turns around. It's like, no, it's not like that. And that actually can really cause a lot of damage. People feel, well, why can't I have that? What's wrong with me that I can't just be better after having done what was, told I needed, they start going to therapy and taking medication or whatever, meditation, whatever and then when they're not working, or it's, like in this film, it's a process, it's a wax and wane, So yeah. I hope that's something that people walk away with too. It's this applies to not just the veteran experience. So it's a helpful way to be able to think about issues that we tend to put in the darkness, both the veteran experience and our own national contention with mental illness.
Yeah. And that was largely the impetus of the film in its very beginning stages. I mean, that was, my just pure frustration with all of these movies portraying trauma in such a bullshit way. It was just, and it's exactly as Noah's describing. It's so alienating to see it represented in a movie, and then see that, all these other people are getting along fine. Like they're fixed and I'm not. So clearly there's something more wrong with me than I thought. It's like, it has the opposite effect that you would think one of those inspiring healing narratives would have. And I think that film as an entity has to take some responsibility for that, and for those very, very damaging myths that are just not true. So a more realistic presentation of these ideas is, what we were going for.
And I think as a society, we're learning more about trauma and its long-term effects, like you're saying, in every area of life. And what I saw in the film that to me is the path to healing was everybody was telling their stories and everybody else was listening to their stories. Not once did you hear someone telling someone else how they're supposed to handle it. There was a lot of empathy, a lot of identifying, but also just sometimes I was like, wait, there's not more conversation? You're just going to tell the story and then walk over to the paper machine or whatever. And it's like, yeah, that's what they're going to do. And I think realistically, that is exactly what people need, right? To heal from trauma, someone listening.
Yeah, and it's also sometimes the most compassionate response is that we're engaging in this activity together. You know, we're not going to sit here and tell each other how to feel or how to think, as you've pointed out. You know, we're gonna continue doing the work that's in front of us, the work that's at hand. We're going to stay present to it, and that activity is often really the thing that, you know, keeps us present to how we feel. We don't get lost in it, and we don't kind of lose each other along the way. You know.
Yeah, that's really good. I hope people who watch your film are brave enough to enter on their own healing journeys. Well, thank you for meeting with us. I just want to remind the audience who's watching this that you can still go and vote for audience awards. If you go to pdfff.com, there's virtual voting, and there's also a virtual festival lobby to connect with filmmakers and attendees. Are either of you going to be in any of the virtual lobbies discussion?
I'm going to try. We still have a lot kind of going on with delivery to HBO to get the film out. So that's kind of what we're
Okay.
We're just spinning plates all over the place. So like Talia texted me. I was like, I'm glad she texted me, because I very well could have forgotten. But it was in my calendar, but sometimes you just burn through things. So
yeah.
Well, I'm glad you remembered. Thank you for having this Q&A with us. And audience, go watch the film. Again, if you've already seen it once, especially after these themes we talked about, listen, contemplate, and vote so you can help them win this one. Thank you again for joining me.
Yeah, thank you, Candace. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, thank you for having us. Be sure to tell your friends to watch it on HBO November 3rd. Yeah, please.
Yes, November 3rd, HBO Max, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Candace.
Okay, bye.
Take care, everybody.
Bye.